The Kepler 442b research station lay in ruins, its twisted metal hull smoking against the alien landscape.
Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her back against the debris, clutching her wounded arm as purple blood seeped through her torn uniform. The Zephyrian attack had come without warning, turning what should have been humanity's first peaceful contact into a massacre. Sarah's breathing came in short gasps as she watched the alien soldiers march through the wreckage. Their insectoid forms moved with predatory grace, 6 legs clicking against the metal floor as they searched for survivors. She had watched them execute her research team one by one, their plasma weapons leaving nothing but ash where her colleagues once stood. The communication array sparked nearby, damaged beyond repair. Earth would never know what happened here. The Zephyrians had made sure of that, jamming all signals before their assault began. Sarah was alone, wounded, and trapped on a hostile world with creatures that seemed to enjoy inflicting pain. She thought of her daughter back on Earth, probably sleeping peacefully in her bed, unaware that mommy might never come home. The thought brought tears to her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away.
Crying wouldn't help her survive.
A shadow fell across her hiding spot.
Sarah held her breath as a Zephyrian soldier approached, its compound eyes scanning the debris field.
Its mandibles clicked together in what she had learned was their equivalent of laughter. The creature wore a translator device that converted its speech into broken English.
Human thing still alive somewhere, it chittered. Can smell fear scent. Very amusing, yes?
Sarah pressed herself deeper into the wreckage, ignoring the pain that shot through her injured arm. The alien's head swiveled toward her hiding spot, and, for a moment, she was certain it had found her. But, then, another Zephyrian called out from across the station.
Commander Vex wants prisoners for testing. Find human thing alive.
The first soldier moved away, and Sarah released the breath she had been holding.
Testing.
She shuddered at what that might mean. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy for their scientific methods, which often involved keeping subjects conscious during experimentation. Hours passed as Sarah remained hidden, listening to the aliens search through the station. They spoke freely, believing no humans could understand their native language.
Sarah had spent years studying xenolinguistics, however, and she caught fragments of their conversation that chilled her to the bone.
They spoke of Earth as a ripe fruit waiting to be harvested. Humanity's homeworld was rich in resources the Zephyrian Empire needed, and the research station had been their way of studying human weaknesses. The peaceful first contact had been a lie from the beginning. As night fell on the alien world, Sarah knew she had to move. Her arm was getting worse, and she needed medical supplies. More importantly, she needed to find a way to warn Earth. The backup communication pod in Sector 7 might still be functional if she could reach it. She waited until the Zephyrian patrol patterns became predictable, then began her careful journey through the ruins. Every step sent fire through her injured arm, but she gritted her teeth and pressed forward. Behind her, she could hear the aliens discussing their plans for humanity's conquest. The backup pod was her only hope. If she could send even a brief message to Earth, warn them about the coming invasion, maybe her death would mean something.
Maybe her daughter would have a chance to grow up free.
Sarah moved through the shadows like a ghost, driven by determination and maternal love. She didn't know that halfway across the galaxy, a team of Earth's most elite warriors was already en route to her location. The Navy SEALs of Team Neptune had been dispatched when the research station went silent, their mission simple: find out what happened and bring everyone home. What they would find would test their skills, their courage, and their loyalty to everything they held sacred. For in the ruins of humanity's first deep space research station, a wounded scientist waited for rescue, and the fate of 2 worlds hung in the balance.
The Zephyrians continued their search, unaware that Earth's deadliest warriors were coming.
And, when they arrived, these alien predators would learn why humanity had fought its way to the stars, and why threatening an American citizen was a mistake they would never have the chance to make again.
Commander Jake Morrison checked his gear one final time as the stealth ship approached Kepler 442b.
His team had been silent for the past hour, each man lost in his own thoughts. They had trained for extraterrestrial combat scenarios, but this would be their first real test against an alien enemy.
5 minutes to drop zone, the pilot announced over the call. Morrison looked at his team.
Petty Officer Rodriguez was checking his sniper rifle for the 100th time. Sergeant Williams had his heavy weapons ready, while Corporal Johnson reviewed the station schematics on his tablet. Each man was a master of his craft, selected from the best of the best. But, as their ship descended toward the research station, none of them could imagine what awaited them below. None of them knew about the wounded woman hiding in the ruins, or the aliens who planned to use her as a test subject for their invasion of Earth.
The real battle was about to begin. Commander Jake Morrison felt his boots hit the ground with practiced silence.
The darkness of Kepler 442 be wrapped around him like a blanket as his team spread out in perfect formation. Through his night vision goggles, the research station looked like a graveyard of twisted metal and broken dreams. Thermal scans show multiple heat signatures in the main complex, Rodriguez whispered through the COM-6 contacts moving in patrol patterns. And one smaller signature hidden in the northeast section.
Morrison's jaw tightened. A survivor. After 18 hours of radio silence, someone was still alive down there.
Williams, Johnson, take the south entrance. Rodriguez, you're with me.
We go in quiet until we're not.
The team moved like ghosts through the ruins. Morrison had led dozens of missions, but something felt different about this one.
The air itself seemed wrong, tainted with the smell of ozone and something else he couldn't identify. Alien technology always left its mark.
As they approached the main complex, Morrison heard voices speaking in a language that made his skin crawl. Through a gap in the debris, he saw them for the first time. The Zephyrians were exactly as ugly as the intelligence briefings had described, but seeing them in person was different.
These weren't just hostile aliens.
They were predators who enjoyed their work.
Target acquired, Rodriguez breathed into his mic. I count 6 hostiles. They're dragging something. Looks like equipment from the lab.
Morrison peered through his scope and felt his blood run cold.
The aliens weren't just looting. They were setting up what looked like surgical equipment in the station's main laboratory.
Whatever they planned to do to the survivor, it wasn't going to be pleasant.
Change of plans, Morrison whispered. We go loud in 30 seconds.
Rodriguez, take the shot on my mark. But before he could give the signal, a commotion erupted from the northeast section of the station. Voices raised in what sounded like excitement, and the alien patrol began moving toward the source of the noise. Dr. Sarah Chen bit back a scream as her injured arm caught on a piece of debris. She had been so close to the backup communication pod when her strength finally gave out.
Now she lay exposed in a corridor, watching Zephyrian soldiers approach with their weapons raised. Found the human thing, one of them chittered in its horrible voice. Commander Vex will be pleased.
Fresh subject for the new experiments. Sarah tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't support her. Days without food and water, combined with her injury, had pushed her body beyond its limits. She could only watch as the aliens surrounded her, their compound eyes reflecting the emergency lighting like tiny mirrors. The lead Zephyrian noticed something beside her and picked it up with a delighted click of its mandibles. It was the small American flag patch that had torn from her uniform during the initial attack.
The creature examined it with obvious amusement. What is this colorful cloth, human thing? Some sort of primitive decoration?
Sarah's voice came out as barely a whisper.
That's my country's flag. The United States of America.
The aliens burst into what passed for laughter among their species, a sound like breaking glass mixed with insect noise. The leader held the flag patch high, speaking loudly so the others could hear.
Listen, brothers. The human thing believes in tribal symbols. It thinks colored cloth has power. The creature deliberately dropped the flag and ground it under one of its 6 feet. Where are your mighty warriors now, human thing? Where is your tribal protection?
Sarah felt tears running down her cheeks, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage. These monsters had killed her friends, destroyed humanity's first deep space research station, and now they were mocking everything she held sacred.
You have no idea what you just did, she whispered. The Zephyrian commander bent down until its face was inches from hers.
Its breath smelled like rotting meat.
And what might that be, human thing? Will your colorful cloth warriors come to save you? That was when the lights went out.
Morrison's night vision turned the world green as he moved through the darkened station. Williams had done his job perfectly, cutting the power at the exact right moment. Now the aliens were at a disadvantage, their compound eyes designed for their homeworld's bright dual suns.
Rodriguez, take the shot, Morrison commanded.
The sniper's rifle whispered its deadly message across the station. The first Zephyrian dropped without a sound, purple blood pooling around its head. The others began to panic, chittering in their native language as they tried to locate the threat.
Multiple hostiles neutralized, Williams reported from the south entrance. Moving to secure the lab equipment. Morrison could hear Johnson's heavy footsteps as the demolitions expert placed charges on the alien communication gear. They wouldn't be calling for reinforcements anytime soon. But Morrison's focus was on the corridor ahead, where he could see a group of aliens surrounding something on the floor. Someone. His thermal imaging showed a human heat signature, weak but alive. "This is Commander Morrison, United States Navy SEALs," he spoke into his external speakers as he stepped into the corridor. "You are surrounded. Release the hostage and surrender." The Zephyrians spun toward his voice, raising their plasma weapons. The lead alien still held the torn flag patch in one of its claws. "More human things," it chittered in broken English. "Good. Commander Vex needs fresh subjects. You will make excellent specimens." Morrison looked down at the flag patch in the alien's claw, then at the wounded woman lying on the floor. Dr. Sarachan looked up at him with eyes that held both hope and determination. She mouthed two words that made Morrison's blood sing with purpose: "Kill them." "Wrong answer," Morrison said quietly. What happened next would become legend among the Special Forces community. Morrison moved with inhuman speed, his training and equipment turning him into a force of nature. His rifle spoke repeatedly, each shot precise and deadly. The aliens' plasma weapons fired wild, their shots going high as their wielders died. In less than 10 seconds, it was over. Purple blood painted the walls, and the corridor fell silent except for the sound of Morrison's breathing and Sarah's soft sobbing. Morrison knelt beside the wounded scientist and gently picked up the torn flag patch. It was dirty and stained, but the stars and stripes were still visible. "Ma'am, I'm Commander Morrison, U.S. Navy SEALs. We're here to bring you home." Sarah looked up at him with wonder. "How did you know to come?" "We always come," Morrison replied simply, helping her to her feet. "No American gets left behind. Ever." But, as they made their way toward the extraction point, Morrison couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The Zephyrians had attacked a peaceful research mission, killed innocent scientists, and planned to use the survivor for experiments. That was a mistake they were going to regret. Because now they had the attention of the United States military, and humanity was about to show these alien predators what happens when you threaten their own. The medical bay aboard the USS Constellation hummed with activity as Dr. Sarachan finally woke from her first real sleep in days. Her arm was properly bandaged now, and the ship's doctor had assured her that the infection was under control. But the physical wounds were nothing compared to what she carried in her mind. Commander Morrison sat beside her bed, his face grim as he reviewed her debriefing report on his tablet. The intelligence she had provided was worse than anyone had imagined. The Zephyrians weren't just hostile. They were planning a full-scale invasion of Earth. "How many ships are coming?" Morrison asked quietly. Sarah's voice was steady despite the magnitude of what she was reporting. "According to what I overheard, the main fleet consists of over 300 vessels. They're planning to attack in 3 months, during Earth's spring season. They believe humans will be weaker during what they call our growth cycle." Morrison almost smiled at that. The Zephyrians had made a fundamental error in their research. They had studied human agricultural patterns and assumed that humans, like their own species, became sluggish during planting season. They had no idea that humans grew stronger when fighting for their homes and families. "There's something else," Sarah continued. "They have a forward base somewhere in the outer system. A staging ground where they're gathering troops and supplies. If we could find it and destroy it before the main fleet arrives, we could level the playing field," Morrison finished. "Good work, document. You might have just saved humanity." Sarah looked down at the small American flag patch that Morrison had returned to her. It had been cleaned and repaired by the ship's tailor, the stars and stripes bright against the dark blue field. "They mocked this," she said softly. "Said it was just colored cloth with no power." Morrison's expression hardened. "They're about to learn different." 3 weeks later, Admiral Rebecca Hayes stood in the war room aboard the USS Enterprise, humanity's newest and most advanced warship. Around her, the greatest military minds on Earth reviewed intelligence reports and battle plans. The Zephyrian forward base had been located in the asteroid belt, hidden within a hollowed-out dwarf planet. "Gentlemen, ladies," Admiral Hayes addressed the room.
3 months ago, these aliens attacked a peaceful research mission and murdered innocent civilians. They captured one of our people with the intent to torture her for information about our defenses. They mocked our flag and called us primitive. She paused, letting her words sink in. Today, we're going to show them what primitive humans are capable of when you threaten our family. The battle fleet that departed Earth orbit was unlike anything humanity had ever assembled. 12 heavy cruisers, 30 destroyers, and 4 massive dreadnoughts, all equipped with the latest in human military technology. But, more importantly, they carried something the aliens couldn't understand or replicate: the fighting spirit of a species that had clawed its way to the top of the food chain. Commander Morrison led the boarding party that would assault the Zephyrian base directly. His team had been expanded to include Marines, Army Rangers, and Air Force Special Operations. Each man and woman wore a small American flag patch on their armor, a symbol that had become a rallying cry for the entire mission.
Dr. Sarah Chen insisted on joining the mission as a technical advisor.
Her knowledge of Zephyrian technology and language would be crucial for accessing their computer systems. Morrison had argued against it, but Sarah was determined to see this through to the end. "They killed my team," she had told him. "I owe it to them to make sure these monsters never threaten another human being." The assault began at 0600 hours, ship's time. Human fighters swept through the asteroid field like avenging angels, their weapon systems painting the void with streaks of light. The Zephyrian defenders were caught completely off guard. They had expected humans to cower on their homeworld, not bring the fight to them. Morrison's boarding craft cut through the enemy base's hull like a knife through paper. The human soldiers poured through the breach with textbook precision, their training and equipment giving them every advantage. But it was their motivation that made them unstoppable. The Zephyrians fought desperately, but they were facing an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. Humans who fought not just for territory or resources, but for their families, their freedom, and their fallen comrades. Every corridor taken was dedicated to the scientists who had died on Kepler 442b. In the base's command center, Sarah worked frantically to access the alien computer systems while battles raged around her. The information she downloaded would change everything. The Zephyrians weren't just planning to invade Earth. They had already attacked 7 other species, enslaving entire populations for their empire. "Morrison," she called out over the sound of gunfire.
"I've got it all.
Their fleet positions, communication codes, even the location of their homeworld."
Morrison grinned as he put down another alien soldier. "Outstanding, document time to go."
The human fleet withdrew from the asteroid belt with their mission complete. The Zephyrian forward base was nothing but debris, and their invasion plans were in ruins. But, more importantly, humanity now knew where their enemies lived.
6 months later, the Zephyrian homeworld of Vex Prime trembled under orbital bombardment from human warships.
The aliens who had once mocked humanity's flag watched in terror as their cities burned. They had expected to face primitive creatures with simple weapons. Instead, they faced the descendants of warriors who had fought on Normandy Beach, in the jungles of Vietnam, and on the sands of the Middle East. They faced the children of a species that had looked at the vast emptiness of space and decided to make it their domain.
Dr. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship as the Zephyrian government transmitted their unconditional surrender.
Around her, the crew worked with quiet professionalism, but she could see the satisfaction in their eyes. Justice had been served. Commander Morrison approached her with a small package. Inside was a new flag patch, this one made from material taken from the captured Zephyrian command ship.
"I thought you might want this," he said.
"A reminder that our flag has power not because of what it's made of, but because of what it represents." Sarah pinned the patch to her uniform and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, her daughter was growing up in a universe where humanity was no longer seen as prey. The Zephyrians had learned what humans had always known, that freedom and justice weren't just colored cloth, but ideals worth fighting for. The aliens had mocked the American flag and called humans primitive. Now their empire lay in ruins, and humanity's banner flew over worlds they had never dreamed of reaching.
It was a lesson that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come.
Never underestimate the species that fought its way to the stars.
And never, ever, mock their flag.